Find insight, guidance, and answers. Tune into Spirit with radio medium Laura Lee.
Spirituality, it is such a grand word, and there's so many definitions for it. And I've come across a lot of people in my field who think that being spiritual means renouncing worldly possessions, maybe people in their lives, or maybe even going off the grid. But today we're going to talk about how you can integrate being spiritual in the real world. I am Laura Lee, and this is your 5-Minute Spare Reboot. Joining me today is author of Embodied Kabbalah, Rabbi Matthew Honack.
Hi, Laura Lee. Thanks so much for having me on your show.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you back. Can you please share what is the Kabbalah?
So Kabbalah is a term which often describes Jewish spirituality. Some people use it very specifically to talk about a type of Jewish spirituality or mysticism that arose in the Middle Ages, but other times people talk about it as a broad term for the way in which the Israelites, the prophets, the early rabbis, and really the whole history of Jewish mystics have related to the divine and related to our world.
So spirituality, how do you define it?
I think it is about connecting with something that is beyond ourselves and also bringing that back into our world. In our tradition, we have people often who have dependents and they have jobs, and there's a certain responsibility as part of living. And so the idea of saying that this world is not real or immaterial, we don't really operate like that. It's more about what are the blessings that we can reach beyond our ordinary senses, beyond our ordinary state of mind. But it's not about staying there permanently. It's actually about reintegrating and returning here and being changed as a result, being more loving, more compassionate, and maintaining the ability to be a responsible and relatable human being.
Have you ever, as a rabbi yourself, had close family or friends say to you, you shouldn't react that way? I thought you were spiritual.
Well, there is something about having that title where it's sort of a de facto, you're held to a certain moral standard, and I think that's really important. And we're all human and we all make mistakes. And part of my, if I were to say teaching by example, is knowing that I'm not infallible and it's okay to make a mistake. I do my best to apologize and to make up for any wrong I've done, but nobody is perfect. And I think, again, that's part of this householder mysticism, this idea that, yeah, we're going to be living in the world. Sometimes we're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. And we're going to do our best.
So what is the best practices for really making that connection with the divine?
I would say part of the lesson is that there's a time for everything. There is a time to talk about deeply meaningful spiritual experiences. There's a time to meditate. And there's a time to get water and chit chat also. That part of this art, it's can we be a normal, so to speak, quote unquote, person and have a spiritual life? And I think the answer is yes. And part of it is really, who are we sharing our most intimate selves with? And when is that wise? When is it appropriate? I mean, Jesus said, don't cast your pearls before swine. It's one of my favorite teachings on this topic, is that actually not everyone is going to be able to benefit or relate to our pearls of wisdom. And maybe those are the people we shouldn't be sharing them with.
And I find that a lot of people who are or think of themselves as spiritual, they're so rigid in their practices.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Part of a good life in the Jewish religion is enjoying it. If we are overindulging and that's preventing us from, let's say, being conscious people or evolving or those kinds of things, that's not the goal at all. But this world has pleasure. We ought to be enjoying it in some degree. Again, there's a time for straining and pushing and limiting and those kinds of things, but there's also a time for delight. It's really about balance. So we can be balanced between the work and the striving and the strictness to some degree and the indulgence. And so if we have a little bit of each in our lives, that can be pretty good. It can be productive, growthful, insightful, and delicious.
Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us today. Where can they find Embodied Kabbalah?
That can be found on Amazon or at my website, embodiedkabbalah.com. So the second word is Kabbalah. So embodiedkabbalah.com.
Thank you for sharing your time with us today. And if you like this episode and you want more, remember to subscribe to the podcast and share it, and please rate it. Thank you.